Part 10. The Original Vampire. Author, Ludo Busroot. Chapter 91. Chapter 91 Stunning, Part 1. Colin knew that Prince Akamoto came to the north this time, and he came to sum up. As a defeated side, Akamoto wants to consent from the northern border, which must be fulfilled and lower the posture. But he didn't expect that the other party's posture was so low. It's almost lying on the ground. As if the Duke of St. Hilda would not forgive them, it would damage the forgiveness of the Cavaliers. But to be honest, Colin felt that the young man prince was very smart. Because at this time the giant demon empire had long been injured, and the 300,000 elite regular troops were destroyed. For the giants, it was impossible to slow down for 3 or 5 years. As the biggest enemy of the giant devil, the North will never let go of such a good opportunity, let alone watching the David Empire slowing down. Therefore, in the view of Colin, this time is the wishful wish of the giant. But who knows, Prince Akamoto was so thorough and crazy. Since it is impossible to fight against the North, it is simply not confrontation. He sent his hands on his military station on the border line, just to tell the Duke of St. Hilda, "I am no longer a threat to you, please don't come again." I have to say that this is a crazy choice. However, it may really make the Duke of St. Hilda's heart. Especially Colin also knows that at this time the biggest threat in the eyes of the Duke of St. Hilda's was actually the Marquis of Garcia, the younger brother who had just been betrayed by him. Will the Duke agree to consent the discussion of the trolls and concentrate their energy on the resolution of internal contradictions? The atmosphere at the banquet suddenly became a little dignified. Vera was also at a loss at this time, so he had to look at Duke of St. Hilda with help. The Duke put down the wine glass in his hand and said in a low tone, "Prince Akamoto, your gift seems to be too expensive." Prince Akamoto shook his head with a smile, "Master Duke, where is it expensive? In fact, I even think that such a gift is not worthy of Miss Villa. Therefore, I decided to solemnly promise you while I was the prince of the southern prince of the giant demon empire, I would never take the initiative to provoke the war with the northern border." Wow! The audience was uproar, and everyone was shocked by the generosity of Prince of the division. The Duke of St. Hilda looked at Akamoto's eyes, "Is this your gift?" "Yes." Prince Akamoto stroked his chest with his left hand and bowed to the Duke of St. Hilda, and said loudly, "It is also the gift I asked to marry Miss Villa." Wow! The reaction of the audience is even more like a honeycomb. Those men who wanted to pursue Vera looked at the troll prince, and couldn't wait to turn the other party to the ground immediately, and scolded him again. "You also match it?" Vera's little face turned red instantly. Then gradually white. Because she saw that her father did not reject Prince Akamoto's request for the first time, but she was deeply thought, as if she was really considered the feasibility of this incident. Vera was panicked. She didn't want to marry the sky ice field thousands of miles away, let alone marry a giant. In a panic, she subconsciously looked for that reliable figure in the crowd. Colin also saw Vera's help. Originally, he was a little hesitant. After all, the identity of his voice, wanting to marry the Duke's adoptive daughter, is actually a bit high. Originally, he planned to find any opportunities to make some military achievements, mention the title of the Angle family, and then come to ask for a relative. But when Vera's big watery eyes looked at it, Colin still made up his mind. Can't hesitate anymore. Otherwise, who knows if the Duke will be moved by the conditions of Prince Akamoto and marry Vera to the sky ice field. You know, this is by no means impossible. Wyra was not the daughter-in-law's biological daughter. More than 10 years ago, he sent her to Jevely himself, and now he sent her to the sky ice field. Perhaps the Duke was not allowed to send Vera away at this time. After all, she has threatened the smooth inheritance of the Duke of the North. So, Colin took a few steps. "Duke. Master Duke, please forgive my offense." At the moment of Colin's opening, someone stood out first. This person is the semi-elf prince he met at the entrance of the Winter City that day to Medine. I saw Prince Tupi came to the Duke and stood side by side with Prince Akamato. I don't think you agree with this marriage. Colin blinked, and a bad premonition rose in his heart. Why, Duke of St. Hilda couldn't hear his anger. Because, I feel that I am more suitable to be Miss Willa's husband. What? Sure enough. Colin snorted coldly what the semi-elf prince was going to say. At the same time, the heart is crazy, why do you grab the woman who looks like? Ha ha ha, the Duke suddenly laughed. Vera, now a giant prince, a semi-elf prince, wants to marry you. Do you want to marry yourself? Who do you want to marry? Verla's face was ashamed and shook his head. Father, I still don't want to marry. The Duke shook his head and insisted, don't say such a childishness, you have to marry someone after all. Why, you don't look at these two. Vera was embarrassed and twisted with her hands uneasily, and she didn't know how to answer this question. Queen Madila suddenly smiled and suggested, Vera, if you are embarrassed, it is better to let them use the oldest and most traditional ritual duel to decide who can marry you. Hearing this, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly rose. Is the two nobles dueling for the belonging of a beautiful girl? Is there a more exciting show than this? The public originally wanted to pursue Vera's North of the North, and at this time, they were dying. After all, the two positions who stood up to propose at this time were too high. Among the northern aristocrats at the scene, it is really difficult to find a competitor with a status and matched age appearance. It's no wonder. Because the aristocratic circle in the north has just experienced a round of cleaning. In the past, there may be a few nobles who could stand up at this time, but they were also beheaded by the Duke's beheading and cutting the Jew. For a time, there was a scene of green and yellow noble circles in the north. However, if these two aliens are taken away, the most delicate and noble flowers in the north, then for the north, I am afraid it is a kind of insult. Thinking of this, many people set their sights on Colin. Although the title of the Viscount of Angleline is not high and his reputation is not great. But after all, he had danced with Vera, maybe there was a chance. Colin also understood at this time that he had to stand up. If Villa really married others, he may regret it for a lifetime. And the Marquis of Garcia, I am afraid that he will kill him for a lifetime. So, Colin took a deep breath, stepped forward, and said, Duke. Well. However, at the moment of Colin's opening, the accident happened again. I saw Marquis jaws fell to the ground with paleness, twitching. The screams followed. The banquet suddenly became a mess. Only Colin's stomachache, messy in the wind. Also let people propose a good proposal. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 92. Chapter 92 Stunning, Part 2. Master Duke, very regrettable Marquis Adams, has returned to the arms of the Lord. As soon as the words of the great bishop landed, the atmosphere of the entire venue dropped to the freezing point immediately. Everyone couldn't even believe it for a while. Marquis Jaw is just like this? The second son of the Duke of St. Hilda, the first heir of the Lord of the Northern Realm, is it dead? He also died at the banquet in his own castle. This is too ridiculous. However, reality is often so absurd. The nobles widened their eyes, covering their mouths, and even dared to send out the scarlet sound of fear, for fear of stimulating the Duke of St. Hilda. At this time, the Duke was staring at the crystal magic chandelier on the ceiling, as if it was his son that had just been declared by the bishop, not his son, but an unrelated passers-by. I don't know how long it has been. Finally, a voice broke this suffocating tranquility. Grand Bishop, how did Adams die? This is Queen Madara asking questions. His Royal Highness, now I can't fully determine the cause of the Marquis, and you need to further verify the autopsy to conclude, but according to my experience, the Marquis should be poisoned and died. The queen immediately turned to look at the knight behind, ordered, arrested all the attendants who prepared food tonight, and asked them one by one. Yes. After a slight riot, all the servants present were arrested. Even the old housekeeper of the St. Hilder family is no exception. The second son of the dignitaries died of poisoning at the banquet in his own castle, which was simply a shame. In particular, this second son is now the first heir of the Duke of the North. In this case, even if the Duke of St. Hilda is still silent, everyone has foreseen the upcoming landslide tsunami. No matter who the murderer is, the Duke will not give up. Colin looked at Marquis, who was lying on the ground with a bleeding, and looked at the Duke of St. Hilda, who still looked up at the crystal chandeliers, and finally turned his eyes to the same jaw of Garcia. Heavy. Yes, the first suspicion of Colin at this time is the Marquis of Garcia. Because his motivation to commit crimes is too big. Charles has been deprived of the right of inheritance, and now Adams is dead. So, if the Duke's younger son, Joyce, encountered misfortune again, would Villa become the first heir to the Duke of the North? Is this the counterattack of the Marquis of Garcia on his brother abandoning his promise? Only. Although the Church of Garcia is the most suspected of rational inferring, Colin always feels that this is not like the handwriting of the Marquis of Garcia. Because from the process of getting along before, Colin had figured out the spleen of the Marquis. He was not a person who liked conspiracy. For this kind of abuse, Colin felt that the Marquis of Garcia should not be able to do it. He would rather believe that the Marquis of Garcia would lead the Black Rider to attack the Winter City, and he did not want to believe that the Marquis of Garcia would poison his nephew. No. Someone deliberately poisoned Marquis Adams in order to provoke the relationship between the Duke of St. Hilda and the Marquis in Garcia. After all, as soon as Adams died, Marquis in Garcia was the most suspected. No. Colin immediately realized that he actually ignored an important factor. That is, Duke St. Hilda's commitment to Marquis in Garcia was a secret that few people knew. Moreover, the Marquis of Garcia is the secret of Villa's biological father, and it is also a secret that few people know. Therefore, even if someone wants to provoke the relationship between the two brothers, unless he knows these two secrets at the same time, this means will never be adopted. At least, Prince Akamoto would not. Colin did not believe that these two secrets could be learned by a giant demon and thus formulated this poison. What's more, even if he learned of these two secrets, it was extremely difficult to poison the churches of Jill Adam. Still poisoning in the banquet of lion roast. And it was accurately poisoned by Marquis. Colin couldn't figure out how he did it. Just when Khalil was trying to learn the elementary student of Kema to crack the killing case, the Duke of St. Hild finally opened. His voice became particularly holy and low, but he was not too excited, and even a little too calm. However, everyone heard the anger of the Duke's forcibly depression. Prince Akamoto, Prince Tup, although you all want to marry Vera, Willis cannot marry two people at the same time, therefore, I can only pick one out of you. The Duke of St. Hilda did not have the death of Marquis of Jaws, as if it was not important. I saw that he stood up from his seat and approached the position of Akamoto and Tupi. The carcass of Jew Adams was next to his feet, but he didn't look down at him. Prince Akamoto, I want to know, if Vera did not marry you, would you still be willing to discuss with the North? Prince Akamoto sank, but he still said helplessly, of course, the Duke, my longing for peace will not change anyway. In fact, he has no other choice. Can the giant demon empire still fight with the North? As long as the northern border agrees, he can actually accept any conditions. Okay, the Duke of St. Hilda greeted the crowd. Nala, you are here. I saw a tall little beauty walking quickly to the Duke of St. Hilda. Although she is not as beautiful as Verena, she is also quite beautiful. The Duke of St. Hilda grabbed Nala's little hand and pushed him to Prince Akamoto, and said, this is my niece Nara, and a noble St. Hilda, is it worthy of you, Prince? Of course, it is my honor to marry Miss Nala. Prince Akamoto gave a gift to Nara, and then stretched out his right hand. Nara is obviously a little bit embarrassed. She didn't expect it, so she was assigned to a giant by her Uncle Su. However, looking at the expressionless face of the Duke of St. Hild, Nala could not raise any idea of resistance. So she slowly handed her hand to Prince Akamoto. So far, the Duke of St. Hilda finally squeezed a smile on his face. He turned around and shouted to Vera again, "Vera, come here." Vera, who was still sad for her brother, suddenly stunned, and then, with puzzlement and hesitant, she slowly walked to the Duke. The Duke took Vera's hand and looked at the semi-elf prince in front of him. "Prince Tup, tell me, you will treat her well." Prince Tup was stunned for a while. Obviously it was completely shocked by the huge surprise from the sky. After a long while, he took a step forward with a red face, excitedly, "Master Duke, I would like to swear, this life will never bear Vera, otherwise, I will go to hell after death, and endless torture forever." "Father, Villa also stunned. She didn't expect that she was married by her father. She still married another country and married a stranger who had never seen a few sides. She just wanted to break away from the Duke's hand, but suddenly stunned. Because she saw the Duke's eyes. It was a gaze she had never seen. Tired, disappointed, angry, and even, is fear. At this moment, Vera suddenly discovered that the father who seemed to be omnipotent, the Duke who was killed in the north, was also old at this time. Suddenly, she seemed to be back 10 years ago. When the Duke wanted to send her to Jeveli to learn Olympic Rama. At that time, she tried to resist. However, the Duke asked her to kneel for a day and one night in front of the 12 holy knights of the family, and finally told her, "You are a St. Hilda. When enjoying the glory represented by this last name, don't forget the burden it needs." At this moment, in the face of similar scenes, the rejected words were just on the mouth, but Vera couldn't say it anymore. He had to watch the Duke holding his hand and slowly walk towards Prince Tup. But when Vera's little hand was about to fall into the hands of Prince Tup, a sound sounds abruptly. "Master Duke, I am opposed to this marriage." This chapter is finished. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 Angry. Prince Tup has never resentful. At this time, in the face of Vera's slim and jade hand, the semi-elf prince had to look back and look at the man who was opposed. Vonner of Colin Angle. After hearing Colin's voice, Villa's pale face also rejected a glory. Her big blue eyes looked at Colin with longing and embarrassment, looking forward to her own redemption. "Collins, why do you oppose this marriage?" The tomorrow of the Duke of St. Hilda was cold. Colin walked out of the crowd and came to the Duke of St. Hilda in front of the crowd. After a respectful ceremony, he said firmly, "Master Duke, because I have also admired Miss Villa for a long time, so I urge you to give me a chance to let me reach my wish." As soon as the Khalil's dialect fell, the Duke of St. Hilda hadn't said anything, and the Prince Tup next to him jumped out like a fried wildcat. Dueling, angle line, let's use a man to decide who is qualified to marry Miss Villa. Immediately, a white glove was thrown at the foot of Colin. Colin's brow was picked, secretly voicing, "Are your nobles carry white gloves with them?" This is the second time he has been invited to duel. Last time was the crazy woman of Zendaya. At that time, Colin did not go to pick up her gloves. However, this time, Colin knew that he couldn't shrink back. But just when he was about to bend over to pick up the white gloves of the Prince Tup, the Duke of St. Hilda reminded, "Colin, you have to think clearly, Prince Tup is a third-order knight. As a mixed race of human and elves, the semi-elf can choose not only to choose a human-dependent career, the Cavaliers, or the unique god of the Elves Ranger. But in the current world situation, humans have established a glorious empire like the sun, but the elves disappear deep in the Huia forest, so the choice of the semi-elf nobles can easily guess. Most of them chose to serve the Lord of Guanghui, so Prince Tup is a knight, which is not surprising. But he turned out to be a third-order knight? This is definitely a genius for the semi-elf prince. However, Colin was not guilty. He is also the third order now. And he has an undead, which is too cheap in the duel. As a result, a little sneer in the corner of Colin's mouth, Master Duke, I think clearly, willing to accept Prince Tup's duel invitation for Miss Villa, even if the pink bone is broken, I don't hesitate. However, when Khalil's hand was about to encounter the white gloves on the ground, Vera suddenly stopped saying, "No, Colin, don't do this." Although Khalil feels that he is sure of defeating Prince Tupi, others don't think so. Especially Vera. In her memory, Colin is just a first-order knight. Therefore, she certainly didn't want Colin to promise Tup's duel invitation. That is simply looking for death. Miss Willa, please don't worry about me. Colin also tried to let Vera widen, but how could Vera believe it? Even the simple female mage really felt that Khalil was willing to die for herself. After all, Colin had done so in the Battle of Rongliu. Therefore, Vera, who was like a knife, suddenly made a decision. She decided that this time, she would save her knight. "Father, I am willing to marry Prince Tup, please stop this meaningless duel." When I heard this, Clintz, who had just picked up the white gloves, suddenly stunned. "Can you be confident in me?" Intersection. Colin roared inside. Okay, the Duke of St. Hilda showed a smile. And Prince Tup is also ecstatic. The mood of the semi-elf prince can be said to have gone through the roller coaster, and suddenly, ups and downs. But after all, Vera chose him. Therefore, in the generosity of the winner, Prince Tup even said that he didn't even use the Duke of St. Hilda to stop saying, and immediately said to Colin, who was holding a white glove, and said, "Angle Vaiku, your courage has conquered me this duel, even if you won." A strong humiliation shrouded the whole body of Colin. The opponent's attitude was completely angry with him. He took a big step forward, approaching Prince Tup, and asked, "What is even if I win? If I win, should you take the initiative to withdraw from the pursuit of Villa?" Of course not. Miss Vera has made her choice, and I, of course, respect her choice. Fart, Colin directly threw the white gloves on Prince Tup's face. "It's a man, just fight with me." Prince Tup was suddenly angry. In the face of the Colin who did not know the good, he also stepped forward, and he shouted relatively, "Okay, then duel," Angler's voice. "No," Vera suddenly rushed out, blocking two men like a chicken. But what is interesting is that she is for the fiancé, not the fiancé she has just chosen in person. "Colin, don't do this, I'm not worth sacrificing like this." Colin stared at Vera's eyes deeply, and asked, "Don't you believe me?" If you believe me, please let it go. Actually, I am also the third order." Colin's confidence is full of generosity to death. "No, I won't let." Prince Tup behind Vera was crazy at the moment. Even if he was dull, he saw that his fiancée chose to marry him at this time. He was actually to maintain Colin. "It's not married yet, the green hat has been put on." Where is the humiliation of Prince Tupeng? He immediately said, "Miss Villa, please let it go, men's things, let the man solve it by himself." Enough. A majestic voice interrupted the blood story of the Delta dog blood in this scene. I saw the Duke of St. Hilda walk in front of Colin and asked, "Angle Viscount, can your loyalty to me still there?" Faced with such a question, Colin had to kneel on one knee and replied, "Of course, the Duke." "Okay, Now I will appoint you as a sender to a relative. He is responsible for escorting Weira to the semi-elf kingdom and gets married with Prince of Tip. Khalil was shocked and silent. He has also seen at this time that the Duke was iron-hearted to marry Weira to the semi-elf kingdom. As for why? Obviously, the death of Marquis Adams made the Duke scared. He had to doubt that this was the ghost of his brother Garcia Marquis. The purpose was to solve the heir who was lined up in front of Vera so that Vera would become the master of the future Northern. Therefore, the Duke must be sent away at this time. Let her stay away from the Winter City. It is best to marry a foreign country and give birth to an exotic descendant, so as to completely have no right to inherit the position of the Duke. As for Vera's feelings, it was obviously not taken to the Duke. Perhaps, for him, Villa is just a tool for marriage. Seeing Collins for a long time, the Duke asked again, "Angle line, what about your loyalty, what about your unconditional obedience?" The Duke step by step, Collins had to bear the anger and deeply buried her head deeply. Ying said, "Yes, the Duke, I will send Miss Villa safely to the semi-elf kingdom." At this point, Khalil's inner anger could no longer be suppressed. What should Duke? What should loyalty? He now just wants to completely burns this full of conspiracy and ruthless places. Do you want to win the semi-elf kingdom? Do you want to destroy the power of the Duke of Vera? He. But I won't let you like it. Colin suddenly raised his head and looked at the Marquis of Garcia, who was sitting on the high platform, watching all these. The two eyes were opposite, as if finally reached a certain tacit understanding. End of the first volume. Radish will not deliberately write the sending women plot disgusting everyone, please look at it patiently. In addition, the interruptions were really too much in the past few days, and Radish apologized. After the shelves, it will make up for everyone. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 94. Chapter 94. Volume 2 Silver Moon Certificate. The setting sun was sprinkled with the last ray of glory, and then the boundless night shrouded the land. A bunch of bonfires were burned in the camp. After the guards were busy, they burned water to cook and feed the horses. Colin handed a letter of writing and a cage equipped with a pigeon to the Radic Knight. At the same time, the command said, "Renge, you now return to Bingian City, telling Iman and Quincy about me to make the semi-elf kingdom, so that they are fully responsible for dealing with government affairs within the territory. I will write a letter every 5 days to explain the recent situation. If I did not receive my letter on time for more than 3 days, I would fly this pigeon. In addition, let the Raymond Cavaliers and Charles continue to be responsible for training. When I returned from the Elf Kingdom, I hope to see a preliminary army. As for you, after returning, 1,000 soldiers rushed to the half-elf king capital Unu City, where he merged with me. Yes, the Cavaliers of the Rag took the cage, and didn't ask where the pigeon would fly back after flying, and then turned away. In fact, this is the pigeon to Colin before the Marquis of Garcia, and it is natural to fly back." Although the Marquis of Garcia did not say clearly, Colin had understood what the other party meant. Colin does not have to lead his own troops this time as a sentimental messenger. After all, this is not a war, and the San Hilda family also dispatched 1,000 escort teams. It must be more than enough to deal with the thieves or beasts along the way. However, Colin felt that he had to control a military force that was exactly his own to prepare from time to time. "Master Viscount, your dinner is ready. Get it in." A servant walked into the camp with an iron plate, put the meal in front of Colin, and then hurriedly retreated. Although Colin does not need to eat these ordinary foods now, in order not to attract unnecessary attention, he will still stuff food into his belly on time. After eating the food, I drank some water, and Colin walked out of the camp. The composition of the staff in this camp is a bit complicated. There are both the guards of the St. Hilda family and the Silver Moon Guard of the Half-Elf Kingdom. In addition, there are many giants. Prince Akamato returned to the sky of the sky. There was a section of the road to the semi-elf kingdom of the semi-elves. Therefore, the two sides would go with each other for a while. The prince of the giant recently was in a good mood. Although he did not marry Vera, he was sent by the duke with a woman next to a family, but anyway, the woman was also surnamed St. Hilda. Moreover, the intention of Prince Akamato this time has been successfully reached. The giant demon empire successfully obtained a valuable breathing opportunity. As for the three important military land on the border of the giant empire to the north border, this is not a big deal. Because the north is impossible to place a large number of military in these three military places, thousands of miles of logistics supply lines will overwhelm the north. And the promise that never invaded the northern border. Well, this promise is estimated that the Duke of St. Hilda did not believe it. From the perspective of Akamato, as long as the giant demon empire can slow down this time, there is hope for re-rise. Angle line, come and drink together, Prince Akamato greeted loud. Colin looked at Prince Akamato, full of spring breeze. He didn't want to pass, but after hesitating, he accepted the invitation. There is no way, since the winter city, he has been deserted. The people of the San Hilder family guards were unfamiliar with him, and Vera had been hiding in the carriage. No one saw it. The atmosphere of the entire team was very depressed, and there was no celebration that should be married at all. The semi-elf is very festive. Prince Tup almost became a fool, and every day the followers drank alcohol. But Colin is obviously impossible to join them. At this moment, Prince Akamato invited each other, and Colin made up, just borrowing wine to dispel sorrow, and solved the recent trouble. Come, Angle Visco Urage, don't be old-fashioned, there are more beauties in the world, why are you so entangled with this flower of Miss Willa? Colin rolled his eyes and ignored Akamato, but just took over the jug he handed in and poured straight into his mouth. Cough, the spicy entrance made Colin disappear for a while, and he gave it. What kind of wine is this? Prince Akamato smiled, this is the medicinal wine made by the giants and witch doctors. Looking at the wretched smile on Akamato's face, Clintz immediately realized what the other party said. You have no other wine, Colin threw the jug back. Haha, don't get angry, there are a few dancers on my side if you want to vent tonight, I can help you arrange. Colin turned around and ran. Giant demon dancer? Forget it. He would rather go to the 5 girls. Well, V Company, don't go, Prince Akamato saw this and caught up again. I apologize to you, I really didn't mean to offend. Colin waved his hand, it's okay, don't care about me, go back to drink your bar, I turn around myself. Then I will walk with you. Colin looked back at Akamato and puzzled, the purpose of your envoys has been achieved, so there is no need to continue to be diligent with me. I actually really want to associate with you, Prince Akamato said seriously. Colin does not believe this kind of words. But I didn't catch Akamato anymore. The two walked to a stream on the edge of the camp. Looking at the slowly flowing stream, Prince Akamato suddenly asked, Vacus, do you know why the Duke will marry Vera to Tupena? Colin's heart is puzzled. Is the boy Akamato noticed that the Duke of St. Hilder and the Marquis of Garcia had a bright fight about the heir? Why do you think? Colin asked tried. Political marriage, what else can be, of course, for the benefit Akamato said without hesitation. Really, Colin frowned, I can understand the Duke's not choosing, after all, I am just a little Vuant, there is no value of marriage and you. Do you think I am more worthy of marriage than Topena? Prince Akamato suddenly laughed, and seemed to think that the praise of Colin made him very useful. Is not it? Colin also realized at this time. In his opinion, if the Duke wants to destroy Vera's inheritance right, it is as effective as marrying her to Akamoto and to Pi. Because the North will not accept a woman who marry a foreign family to become the duke, let alone make her son a half-man or a semi-elf became the heir. But why did the duke choose Prince Tupi in the end? In Colin's view, Prince Tupi's status is not as good as Prince Akamoto. Because the giant demon empire is far from comparable to the semi-elf kingdom. Don't look at the giant devil empire, just suffered a tragic defeat, dying. But as long as they give them 3 to 5 years of rest, it is not difficult to pull out a 300,000 army. And the semi-elf kingdom, this small country with a total population of less than 2 million, no matter how poor the soldiers are, it is estimated that the troops that have pulled out 100,000 people have reached the limit. In fact, according to the understanding of the Colin, the number of small affiliated countries in this glorious empire is currently only about 50,000. Therefore, if the Duke wants to win foreign aid through marriage, why is it more inclined to the semi-elves kingdom, not the giant demon empire? When Prince Akamoto saw Colin falling into doubt, he smiled. Actually, the Duke marries Vila to Prince Tup, but it is not the semi-elf kingdom. What did he conspire? Prince Akamoto reached out to point the east and said, "It's the east-east." This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 95. Chapter 95. East-east. Colin's brows were firing tighter. He didn't understand why he married Vila to a semi-elf prince, but it was the Empire East. As a small country that is sandwiched between the northern and east of the empire, the half-elf kingdom has always been swaying left and right, and the two sides are flattering, but in the view of Colin, how does this small country do not look like the key to the two realms? It seemed to see Colin's puzzlement. Colin was upset. However, he also had to admit that there was no experience in water warfare in the memory of the predecessor. In fact, there are almost no northern borders. For a long time, the biggest enemy in the north is the giant devil empire on the ice field. The cavalry is the best army to deal with the trolls. Therefore, the cavalry in the north has always been a glorious empire. But the water army was really pulled down. At this time, when I heard the Duke said that the Duke was in the east, Colin remembered that between the north and the east, it was actually separated by a sky. The name of this sky is the Nushui River. In fact, the military strength of the glorious empire is not balanced. At least, the northern border is obviously stronger than the east. The reason is also very simple. For so many years in the north, they have been fighting against the giant demon empire. In the east, their old rival elves have long disappeared into the Huia forest. I don't know if it is a seclusion or an extinction. But no matter what, the east is not the same as the north, they do not have pressure from the alien. Only Jeveli on the border of Huia forest, the mage there may be a little bit eye-catching. But it is just an eye. Masters cannot organize large-scale troops and have no threat to the east. As long as the East China does not cause them to throw the curse, the two sides can still get together and live peacefully. As a result, there have been no large-scale wars in the East China. Without the baptism of blood and fire, it is impossible to forge the real tiger and wolf division. Therefore, the long-standing East state, its military strength is basically at the bottom of the glorious empire. Fortunately, the northern border has always been able to deal with the threat of the trolls. The main force is basically deployed on the northern defense line, and naturally it will not put too much pressure on the east. Even the angry water river has always been in the hands of the east. And now, if the Duke of St. Hilda is indeed Prince Akamoto said, trying to dye the east, then the sky of the Nushui River will become the biggest obstacle to the northern army. Yes, I don't understand the water war. Colin nodded and admitted, then you say, what is the relationship between the semi-elf kingdom? I remember that the upstream of the Aravi River is not in the semi-elf kingdom. Yes, the Nushui River is indeed not in the semi-elf kingdom, but what do you know about the first element of the water war? Colin touched his chin and searched all the cases about water warfare in the memory. After a while, he said in a short while, "Is it a boat?" "Yes, but the average boat obviously couldn't take the task of crossing the river, therefore, it is more accurate that the Duke of St. Hilda needs is a powerful water forces." Colin thinks, "Is there a powerful navy in the kingdom of the semi-elf?" Prince Akamoto smiled, and his face disdain. "The semi-elf kingdom does have a water army, but based on the water army, it is estimated that one face will be destroyed by the East Water Army." Colin didn't understand this time. "Then why do you say that the semi-elves kingdom will be the key to entering the East?" Prince Akamoto picked up a branch of the ground, drew a simple map, and explained at the same time. "This is the Nushui River, with a total length of more than 7,000 kilometers, and it seems that the Northern Army can cross the river at any point, but in fact, this is impossible. The reason is what we just said, boat. The Northern Army must build a ship for crossing the river, but the East of the East is not stupid. It is impossible to watch the shipbuilding of the North Bank on the west bank of the Nushui River. At this time, the Nushui River was under the control of the East, so the North could not directly build a boat in the Nushui River. As a result, the only choice for the Duke of St. Hilda was to find a river in the north to create a navy. However, this river is not casually chosen. After all, it is impossible to let the soldiers carry the boat from the land to the Nushui River. Therefore, this river must be unicom with Nu Shui. At this time, if you carefully turn the map of the north, you will find that such a river is not found in the north, but they are too shallow and narrow, and they cannot let the big ship pass at all. However, in the upper reaches of the Nushui River, there is such a river that meets the conditions: Crystal River. And this Crystal River. Prince Akamoto circled a circle on the ground with branches, and he focused on it. When I heard this, Colin suddenly realized. This is a reason to fight the river crossing the river in ancient China. When Colin read the history books, there were some doubts. The Yangtze River was so long. Where can I cross the river? Why do the northern regime die at each point every time? Just like when the Mongolian iron rides south, why do you have to attack Xiangyang? If you turn over the map of China, you will find that Xiangyang will not be on the edge of the Yangtze River at all. However, there is another river next to it, Hanjiang. Therefore, as long as Xiangyang is occupied, the Hanjiang River is controlled. The Mongolians can build a boat in the Han River, and then go down to the Yangtze River. This is why the northern regime cannot go south to the south. There are similar river lakes in the lower reaches of the Yangtze River. Keahu Lake. Next to Keahu is Hefei. Therefore, when Zhang Liaotown guarded Hefei at that time, Sun Quan was difficult to settle in bedtime, repeatedly sent troops to attack, and finally played the name of Sun 100,000. In short, Khalil understood the true intention of the Duke of St. Hild at this time. He married Vera to the semi-elf kingdom. He wanted to take this opportunity to control the Crystal River, so as to build a water army, and then went down to the angry Water River, thereby invading the east. However, why is the Duke of St. Hilda so anxious to find the east? Especially in the northern border itself, there is huge hidden concerns. Is it true that the Duke will certainly certain that his brother will not rebel? This question Khalil can only be temporarily pressed in his heart. Then he wondered again, why did the guy Akamoto explain to himself? Do you just want to show taboos? Although these days were getting along, Colin also found that the Prince of the Giant was a playful guy, but he always felt that the other party should have other intentions this time. Why do you explain to me? Colin asked directly. Prince Akamoto smiled, because I hope you know that the Duke did not marry me, not because I am not as good as that semi-elf white face, but because the semi-elf kingdom is the next strategic goal in the north. Colin smiled. Of course I didn't believe this kind of ghost. How can such political creatures like Akamoto care about such a little face, and explain to Colin for this little thing? Before Colin continued to ridicule, Prince Akamoto took out a badge and handed it to Colin. If you need help in Union City, you can take this slave market to the west of the city to find a businessman named Sith. Maybe he can make your trip to the kingdom of Half-Elf. Colin took the badge, and at the same time was convinced. The prince of this giant is indeed another picture. This chapter is finished. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 96. Chapter 96. Colin suddenly laughed with the double spear round shield badge handed over by Prince Akamoto. Because he has realized what this guy I want to do. It turns out that you are not able to control the semi-elf kingdom smoothly in the north. It is best to use the army to cross the Nushui River and fight with the east. In this way, the Duke of St. Hilda naturally flawlessly take care of, and your monster empire can also win a period of rest. Prince Akamoto smiled. He neither acknowledged Colin's speculation, but he did not deny, since the giant demon empire has concluded a peace agreement with the northern border, everyone is a friend. Friends need help, and of course I am inconceivable. Really, Colin looked at Prince Akamoto with a pleasant look, and asked, I don't know who the Sith friend is. What is the identity of Union City? What kind of help can I provide me? Prince Akamoto spread his hand. Don't think too much. The Sith is just a semi-elf businessman I used to know, and it should not help you. I see you are not very familiar with the semi-elf kingdom, so introduce a local person to know you. Colin rolled his eyes. Apparently he didn't believe that the Sith was just an ordinary semi-elf merchant. But since Akamoto refused to say, he didn't ask much. Perhaps from Akamoto's view, the mention of the semi-elf kingdom this time must be the important mission of the Duke, and to win the high-rise semi-elves. But in fact, Colin did not receive any instructions from the Duke at all. Moreover, he still didn't understand why the Duke had to send him to be this ambassador. However, regardless of the Duke's plan, Colin's own plan is very clear. That is, he must stop Vera from marrying Prince Tup. Even if the Union City is overwhelming, even if the semi-elf kingdom has completely fallen to the east, even if the northern border has lost the opportunity to pass the Nushui River to the east, it is at the expense. As for Duke St. Hilda's plan, that care about him. The image of the Duke of St. Hilda in Khalil has completely collapsed. A politician who has no choice for benefits and conspiracy to conspiracy in his mind is that he cannot win the respect of Colin, and it is not worthy of his loyalty. It seemed to have completed the task. After that, the Prince Akamoto's tan-seeing decreased significantly, and after a while with Colin, he left and left. The night is deep. Everyone in the camp has fallen asleep, and only a few of the sentry of the posts patrolled the surroundings. Prince Akamoto hadn't slept yet, but was meditating in front of a pair of chessboards in front of him. There are black and white chess pieces on the chessboard. This is a game named Orgaki. By flipping each other's chess pieces, he finally judged the defeat with who had more chess pieces on the chessboard. Therefore, it is also called flipping chess, which is quite popular among the nobles of the glorious empire. At this time, Prince Akamoto was playing the Soshisteri chess, but there were no other people in the camp. He played with himself. It seemed to have encountered any difficulty. Prince Akamoto held his cheeks with one hand and stared at the chessboard in front of him. He had no next step. I don't know how long, a light and shadow in the camp flashed, and there was one more person in front of Prince Akamoto. He was wearing a large black robe, as if he had been there. Snapped. The black robe reached out to turn a black chess in the lower left corner of the chessboard, revealing the white back. Prince Akamoto didn't mind the other party disturbing his game. Looking at the situation of instant reversal on the chessboard, he laughed. It's great, Mr. Small drama. Mr. Yan looked indifferent. Prince Akamoto spilled the chess pieces in his hand on the chessboard, and counted as a confession, "Hey, this Orgacha still play with you, I still forget it." Mr. Yan smiled and did not take over, but asked, "Did you introduce Sassi to the Viscount of Angle?" "Yes." Prince Akamoto nodded, and then showed his doubt again, "But I didn't test anything from the Viscount Angle, as if the boy really had nothing to do with Duke St. Hilder's plan. No. Normal Angle Viscount can be valued by Marquis and Duke of Garcia at the same time naturally, there is exceptional it is impossible to test the bottom details by you so easily. Don't figure out the plan of the Duke of St. Hilda, how should we deal with it, and Sith, is it wrong to expose him so soon?" Looking at Prince Akamoto, who was hesitant, Mr. Tan stretched out his hand and gently buckled twice on the chessboard. Then he said, "His Royal Highness is just like Osiro. If you dare not fall because you don't know the intention of your opponent, you will be defeated." "It makes sense." Prince Akamoto nodded, but the doubts on his face had not completely faded. He cleaned the chaos on the chessboard and invited, "Mr., can you accompany me to the next game?" "Mr." The camp was quiet, leaving only the slight sound of the chess pieces on the chessboard. After a long time, Prince Akamoto stared at the chessboard and hesitated again, and seemed to have encountered a problem again. "Mr., do you say the Duke of St. Hilder sent Angle Viscount as the ambassador to his relatives? I think the Viscount seems to be unwilling to weigh law. Don't the Duke worry that he destroys his family plan?" Mr. Yan looked down at the chessboard, and asked in his mouth, "His Royal Highness, how do you know that the Viscount Angeli is not the mist of Duke St. Hilda's intention?" "Misty." Prince Akamoto thought about it. Mr. Yan nodded and shook his head again. Seeing this, Prince Akamoto was even more puzzled. When I was about to ask, I listened to Mr. Yan and said, "His Royal Highness, can you know what the best response strategy is when you don't know the intention of the opponent's intention?" "What? It's not dealt with. Don't deal with it?" "Yes." Mr. Yan raised his head, and his deep eyes looked at Prince Akamoto's eyes. "It is you to go to you, I go to me. Don't guess what the opponent wants to do, only concentrates on improving his layout. Until the short soldiers between the two sides were connected, goodbye to the move." Prince Akamoto's chess in his hand seemed to finally understand what. After a moment, he smiled and placed the chess pieces on the chessboard, praising, "Mr., you are really a master of the game. Presumably you are there, the chess of the semi-elf kingdom will definitely be extremely exciting." Mr. Yan smiled bitterly, "His Royal Highness, the world is like chess, but people are not chess pieces. They have thoughts, expectations, and ambitions, will not let you go like a chess piece. My layout in the north before was because of this, but I helped the Duke of St. Hilda in a lot of money." Prince Akamoto quickly persuaded, "Mr. don't have to blame himself. Who else can really do everything except the gods?" Mr. Yan smiled, "His Royal Highness is relieved, and the small frustration is not discouraged. Moreover, as I said, people, not chess, will not let it go. It will exceed everyone's expectations." Prince Akamoto raised his head and looked at Mr. Yan thoughtfully, as if thinking of an unwilling voice. Then, a smile showed. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 97. Chapter 97, Hongfeng Manor. Autumn is the most beautiful season of the red maple forest in the year. The maple forest, which is only dozens of kilometers from the semi-elf king city Union City, has become a red ocean at this time. At a glance, the mountains are all over the mountains, as if they are burning all the heavens and earth. In Maple Forest, a team of semi-elf and humans is slowly moving forward. This is naturally the protagonist's delegation. They have penetrated into the nation of the Semi-Genie King and are estimated to reach Union City tomorrow. And the giant demon mission of Prince Akamoto has already separated from them. Before, Prince Akamoto also enthusiastically invited Colin to go to the city of the Daja King. Colin naturally agreed with a smile. But in fact, what he thought was, It is definitely not as a guest as a guest. The conqueror is almost the same. Along the way, the scenery along the way is getting more and more beautiful, but Vera's mood is getting lower and lower. The female mage has been bored in the carriage, and no one has seen it. Colin tried to meet several times, but also ate behind closed doors. Even Vera's fiancé, Prince Tup, is the same treatment. At this moment, he was standing in front of Villa's carriage and bowed and greeted. "Miss Willa, it is late, we probably can't reach Union City today." It was the Red Maple Manor in front. It is the industry of ArmyBuilding family. There was no movement in the carriage, and the curtain was not opened. After a long time, there was a sound of good. Simply and neat, cherish the words like gold. A hint of embarrassment and resentment flashed on the face of Prince Tup, but quickly went away. The prince, who likes to keep the graceful and elegant semi-elf, bowed to the carriage where Vera was located, and then turned to leave. The team continued to move forward, and finally came to Hongfeng Manor before the sunset. As one of the oldest manor in the semi-elf kingdom, Hongfeng Manor has a history of more than 800 years. The entire estate is located in the red maple forest, covering an area of about 700 acres. The surrounding walls were built with sturdy tattoo, and the vines were climbed on it. The architecture in the manor is solemn and exquisite, combining the characteristics of the buildings of human and elves, but it is inevitable that it is a bit old under the washing of the years. Of course, this is not a disadvantage in the eyes of nobles who pay attention to history and inheritance. Hongfeng Manor has obviously learned about the coming of the relatives. At this time, he was welcoming Villa and his party with the most solemn ritual. Colin followed the team into the manor and looked curiously. I have to say that the race of the semi-elf really inherits the unremitting pursuit of the Elves clan for good things. The entire estate is exquisitely elegant and beautiful. Even for so many days, I have been hiding in the carriage without seeing people, and I can't help secretly lifting the corner of the driving curtain and looking out. Colin stared at the green lawn on the ground, and he was very curious about how these semi-elves kept the green grass in late autumn. "Miss Willa, Prince Tup, John of Angle Line, dinner is ready, please come with me." Under the leadership of the housekeeper, everyone came to the restaurant. Due to the low mood of Villa, the atmosphere of the entire dinner was very depressed. Even if Prince Tu had tried his best to be active atmosphere, it was still unaware. After using this embarrassing dinner, everyone returned to the room to rest. Colin shook a few laps in the manor in the name of the visit, caught a long raillery and the nests, and was regarded as his real dinner by him. After eating and drinking, Colin finally returned to his room. I was ready to rest after washing, but I heard someone knocked on the door. "Turd Cavaliers, so late, is there anything?" Colin opened the door and watched the strong white-haired knight outside the door. He had some doubts. The Turd Magus was a family knight who was loyal to the Duke of St. Hilda, and was also the captain of the escort team to send relatives. The Turd Cavaliers nodded slightly towards Colin, saying, "Master Viscount, Miss Villa wants to see you." Colin blinked and nodded immediately, "Okay, bring the way." At this time, the night was deep, and the manor was quiet, and no figure could be seen. Colin went more and more puzzled. Because he didn't even see a guardian guard. However, he quickly realized that the guards who had been on duty here were all from the St. Hilda family, and it is estimated that the Teld Cavaliers had been transferred in advance. So, why do Walla want to do so mysteriously? The two came outside the door of Villa's room silently. The Turd Cavaliers made a gesture at Colin, and then left quickly. It wasn't until the other party's figure disappeared into the darkness that Colin knocked the door with a little doubt. "Miss Willa, me. Come in." Colin pushed in. There are white gauze curtains hanging around the room, and a whole white bear skin is covered on the ground. On the bear skin, there was a stunning girl standing. Guru. Colin swallowed. Because Vera tonight is too seductive. She only wore a white silk robe, and her exquisite curve was looming. The golden hair was sprinkled on her fair shoulder, and she also exudes a silk water vapor. Obviously, she had just finished bathing. A pair of ivory-like white and tender jade feet stepped on the bare skin pad, with a moist luster, full of strange charm. "Way, Vera, find me, what's the matter?" In this situation, Khalil's words are not smooth. The girl's bright face was glowing with a faint blush, but her eyes revealed a firm light. I saw her approaching slowly towards Colin, and at the same time asked, "Collins, am I beautiful?" "Beautiful, of course beautiful." Colin watched the beautiful legs exposed by the girl because of his walking, and the blood of the whole body was a bit out of control. At this time, if he didn't understand what way Law was looking for himself, he would be too straight. Vera had supported her slightly trembling hands on Colin's chest, and then raised her head. The pink-red lips exudes a fatal temptation under the illumination of magic lamps. Colin took a deep breath, not hesitating, holding the girl in his arms, solemnly, "Rest assured, I won't let you marry that semi-elf." Vera's body trembled slightly, but immediately shook his head. "No, Clorin, I will marry Prince Tup, this is my obligation as a Saint Hilda. However, I just want to give you all my beauty before entering that cage." "No, you can only marry me." Colin seemed to be overbearing president at this moment, and his tone was extremely tough. "Colin," Vera wanted to persuade it again, but was blocked by a domineering man. The girl's heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and her mind was blank immediately. "Nympho!" Boom! The light of the outside of the house flashed, and it rained. Dauda's raindrops hit the closed window and made a slap sound. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 98. Chapter 98 Union City. The bright morning light is sprinkled in the red maple manor, and the crystal duties exudes a little light, like a pure diamond, and the elegant manor is embellished like a fairyland. After a heavy rain, the air became particularly fresh, and there was a fragrance of fragrant flowers and plants everywhere. Colin took a deep breath and stretched his waist in the rising sun. "God is refreshing." "Good morning, His Royal Highness Tup." "Good morning, Angle Vikaj, your mood seems to be very good today." Prince Tup looked at the smile on his face, and his heart was a little strange. Since Vera's adult ceremony, although the two of them did not pull their swords when they met, they would definitely not show each other. "Haha, of course, thanks to your hospitality," Colin smiled sincerely. "It is my honor to be satisfied with the Vicarus, Prince Tup. I always felt that today's Clorin was a little too enthusiastic, but he didn't care much. He feels that he should be tolerant as a winner." The elf prince was obviously dressed today and wore a luxurious dress. Especially the green thorns on the head attracted the attention of Colin. It seemed to notice that Kali was staring at his head. This is the tradition of our half-elf kingdom. When the king's children enter the Union City, we must wear a thorn's head ring, symbolizing responsibility and sacrifice. Oh, Colin Chiang's smile, "It's really beautiful. Do you know, in my hometown, green symbolizes luck." "Really, thank you for your blessings. I go to Miss Vera, please be herself." Prince Tup walked from the side of Colin, but then reminded him without taking a few steps. "It's a little pay attention to when you are shopping in the garden today." "What's wrong?" "I'm afraid there is a beast that breaks in." "Beast?" "Yes, a long-range all-cruciflower was bitten last night, and the blood was dry. I didn't know what the beast was dry." "That's so bad," Colin sighed with a sigh. Prince Tup was also resentful. "Hey, the Longtown cruise is the favorite of her mother's beloved. Now she has to be sad for a long time. The damn beast, when I find it, will definitely crush it." "Well, the damn beast," Colin scolded naturally. As if the long rampiness had nothing to do with him. "Then I'll go to the front hall for dinner. I wish you good luck." Say goodbye to Prince Tup. Colin hummed small songs, and came to the restaurant briskly. There is already a person sitting at the long table in the hall. "Good morning, Master Viscount." "Good morning, the Cavaliers of Turd." Colin always felt that the St. Hilda family knight was a little wrong to look at his eyes, but he still looked at meals as usual. Breakfast is rich. Colin eats perfunctory. Just when he stuffed something at will, when he was about to leave, Prince Tup also came to the hall. "Miss Villa's body is a little uncomfortable, so I'm afraid we can't get away today." Hearing Prince Tup's words, the Turd Cavaliers looked at Colin's eyes even more wrong. However, the culprit of Colin seemed to have nothing to do, and even asked with anxiety, "Miss Villa is okay?" "It should be okay. It is estimated that it was disturbed by the thunderstorm of last night, and he didn't sleep well." Prince Tup returned casually, and did not notice the strangeness of the Turd Cavaliers. "Please rest assured, I will arrange a priest to take a look at Miss Villa." "You bother. This is what I should do." After Prince Tup left, the Turd Cavaliers laughed at Colin. "Angle Viscount, the rain last night was a bit big." Colin nodded with a smile, as if I didn't understand the meaning of the dialect. "Indeed, I didn't sleep well overnight." Without waiting for the Turd Cavaliers to speak again, a guy who was guilty of thieves quickly put down his knife fork and got up and said, "Then I go back to make up for it, you continue." Nympho. As a result, because of Vera's body, the sentimental group stayed in Hongfeng Manor for another day. On the third day, I set off again. The semi-elf prince is still a rotten ring with the green thorns on his head. "Good morning, His Royal Highness, did the damn beast caught?" "Good morning, Viscount." Prince Tup shook his head. "No, and a poodle was tragic last night, it was too hateful." "What?" Khalil was surprised. "It's too much. I have strengthened the guard of the manor. If the beast dares to come out tonight, he will not let him run again." "Well, it must not run away." Khalil nodded with a state of trouble, and then gently pinched the stomach. "Let's go, His Royal Highness." "Good." Nympho. On the afternoon of the same day, the group of relatives arrived smoothly to Yunyu City. If Benjian City is the city of prosperous border, the Winter City is the city of magnificent kings, and the Yunyu City is a beautiful city of garden. This ancient city, which has undergone thousands of years, has been the political, economic, and cultural center of the semi-elf kingdom since its establishment. In order to make it beautifully dressed, the semi-elf people exhausted their thoughts. Needless to say, all kinds of carefully carved buildings have been planted in any empty corner on the streets, and they have been planted with flowers and trees. This garden-style city has made many bard poets forget it, spreading its beauty and tranquility everywhere, making its reputation sounded the entire continent. However, the result of too much attention to the beautiful appearance is that the military value of the silver moon can be said to be almost no. For example, those walls entangled by wisteria, although they look beautiful, are fighting. It is simply a good climbing ladder for the siege. And the crystal city gate exuding colorful light under the sun, Colin wondered whether it could resist a round of impact of heavy cavalry. In fact, Collins is more concerned. The city walls and gates of the Silver Moon seem to be fragile, but they have never been destroyed in the war. Because every time the enemy attacks under Yunyu City, the city will drop very well. In the words of the semi-elves, it is, "We can't bear to let this beautiful city experience war." As a result, although the Silver Moon City is a beautiful vase that is broken, it has completely preserved the masterpiece of the master of the semi-elf family of all ages, which can be called a miracle in the history of cultural relics. Come to the gate of the city is the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Half-Elf, the Duke of Miller. "Dear Angle voice line, welcome to come, the King and the Queen have been waiting in the palace for a long time." "The Duke, you are so polite." Colin Man accidentally gave a salute to the Duke of Miller, naturally showing a proud look. At this time, he represented the north of the empire, and naturally there was no need to be too polite to the Duke of a mediocre country. The Duke of Miller certainly won't be blamed. As a small prime minister, he has already learned to bow his knees in front of messengers. After saluting Prince Toop, Duke Miller finally turned to Vera's carriage, as if she wanted to greet Vera in person. Unfortunately, Vera did not come out to see his plans at all. As the Duke Miller was embarrassed, Colin's voice came from before. "Master Duke, please bring the way, you can't let the king wait for a long time." "Yes, yes, please come with me. There is another chapter to be later. This chapter is finished." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 99. Chapter 99. Welcome Dinner. Welcome to the semi-elf people, and came to the half-elf palace in the center of Union City. Although the semi-elf palace is brilliant, although King Half-Elf stood in front of the palace door, Colin's eyes were locking on a woman for the first time. Queen Half-Elf. This is a tall semi-elf girl with a dreamy face. Her expression is dignified and elegant. She supports the old semi-elf king next to her hands. She can't help sighing at a glance. It's really a flower inserted on the cow dung. Colin quickly took back his slightly rude eyes and bowed to the king and the queen. At the same time, the belly in my heart. No wonder the queen needs to adopt a son, so she is unstable with the standing stand of the king of elves. Presumably, she must not be able to make the young and beautiful queen conceive to the child. At this time, Vera finally came out of the carriage and saluted the king. Today, Vera didn't dress up, only wearing a simple white dress, and there was no other decoration on her body. She only had a small St. Hilda family badge on her left chest. In such a grand occasion, the costumes such as Vera are actually very rude. But no one dared to speak at the scene. Just like a cold snow lotus, the girl stood in front of the palace expressionlessly, as if a silent protest against fate. "Way, Miss Vera, Viscount, please don't give me more gifts." The king of the semi-elf is fluttering, as if a gust of wind can be spread. "Respecting guests, please go to the palace, we have prepared rich food wine to wash dust for everyone." Behind the king, a middle-aged semi-elf man walked towards Colin and others. "His Royal Highness Prince William is right, please come in soon," Duke Miller quickly persuaded. At the same time, the identity of the middle-aged man was also clicked. It is the biological son of the semi-elf and the late queen's biological son, the Prince William Madin. Colin felt that the reason why the prince and Duke Miller were so anxious to make everyone enter the palace was probably worried that the old king had stood outside and suddenly farted for a long time. Therefore, he also led Vera and walked into the palace of Half-Elf. Such a beautiful semi-elf people will naturally not be embarrassed to their royal palace. Colin is all the way. Everywhere they see in the sight are brilliant, full of luxury and luxury atmosphere, and even the lion roar of the St. Hilda family. Not as good as here in this regard. Passing through a long corridor and came to the banquet hall. The dark red carpet is placed on the long tables, with a hidden blue fence on the table, and the blood rose unique to the semi-elf kingdom is placed on it. The faint floral fragrance is filled with the air, which is refreshing. A tall semi-elf maid, like flowers butterflies, generally shuttled lightly in the hall, introducing everyone to the corresponding seats one by one. Colin stepped on a thick carpet, and the soft and comfortable touch made him have the illusion of walking in the clouds. After sitting on his seat, he narrowed his eyes to look at the crystal chandeliers on the ceiling. It was a crystal magic lamp with a diameter of 3 meters wide. The magic energy exuded in it took every corner of the entire banquet hall as daylight. Losing his head, there are all exquisite meals in front of you and extra expensive wines at first glance. Even tableware is made of pure gold, carved on it with the badge of the Meadwen family. Too much money. Colin couldn't help but think of information about the race of the semi-elf in his predecessor's memory. They also call the two races of the world's most business in this world. If the earth and businessmen rely on the well-known business talents, then the semi-elf merchant depends on women's politics. That's right, the semi-elf beauty is famous in the world, and by sending women to the major forces, the semi-elf merchants soon spread out a network of connections covered by all corners of the mainland and brought countless wealth back to Yunyu City. However, these wealth will of course attract the eyes. Therefore, the semi-elf decisively rely on the glorious empire, and paid a lot of worship every year, just in exchange for the shelter of the empire. With the godfather of the empire, the half-elf kingdom was simply lying flat. The domestic military martial arts were extremely relaxed. The total number of regular armies in the country was only 50,000, and the combat effectiveness was said to be extremely collapsed. No way, they are so rich, who wants to go to the battlefield to work hard? Just in Colin's thoughts, the banquet has begun. The old king still used the tone of the ingenuity to say that the mixed buns were mixed, and the Colin was drowsy. The whole meal process is also tedious. Wyra is holding the principle of silence is gold. Unless he was asked, he occasionally returned to a word good, yes, yes, some state. However, members of the royal family of Ma'din not only dare not have complaints, they must also wait for it, and try to find a topic to prevent the atmosphere from being too embarrassing. Colin looked tired for them. The atmosphere on the main table is so. Of course, the remaining semi-elf nobles on the table are even more dare to make a loud noise. The entire banquet hall almost only heard the dingling sound of the knife and fork touch the dinner plate. Finally, when the meal was over, the maids withdrew from the long table. The melodious music sounded, and the dance began. However, the atmosphere is still extremely embarrassing. Vera is there like a wooden man, and no one cares about it. The face of Prince Tupia next to him was green, but he still had to smile. Colin did not dare to dance to Vera at the moment, otherwise, the calm and corrupt Prince Tup was afraid he would throw white gloves to him again. However, there were many semi-elf aristocratic girls around Colin. Obviously, they found out that the Angle Viscount from the north was not married and came to touch luck. Looking at the beautiful face around, Colin just refused one by one with a bitter smile. He always felt that Villa's eyes swept over intentionally or unintentionally, making him cold. Moreover, to be honest, he is really not interested in these semi-elf aristocratic girls. Although they look good, they may not have Veracia. As for the identity, it is even worse. Half-elf beauty has always been known as the best lover. But note that this is just a lover, not a wife. Any sober-headed human nobleman is very clear. The semi-elf beauty can only be a lover and cannot really marry home. The reason is simple: the title of the glorious empire can only be inherited by the pure human beings. Therefore, in the face of the enthusiastic semi-elf girls, Colin had to thank him. The two distinguished guests did not give their faces so, and the atmosphere of the banquet was naturally impossible. And the old semi-elf king, even lying directly on the chair and fell asleep. So, as soon as 8 o'clock, the queen announced the end of the banquet early. "I'm really sorry, this banquet has not allowed the two to enjoy it." Looking at the queen, who came to the soft apology in person, Colin also smiled and stared at, "His Royal Highness is polite. In fact, we are tired of traveling long distances." "Okay, Tupia, send two distinguished guests to rest." "Yes." After sending away Vera and Colin, the queen came forward to try to help the king, who was asleep. "Mother, let me come." Prince William took the lead. "Okay, you send your majesty to rest, I'll send the guests again." Kindness. Holding the sleeping king, Prince William walked towards the palace. "You all go down." Put the king on the bed in the palace, and Prince William waved his hands. "Yes." When the door of the palace was closed again, the original sleeping king suddenly opened his eyes. "I saw him climbing quickly. How could there be the old man who died before?" This chapter is finished. The original vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 100. Chapter 100. Looking at the suddenly glory of the old king, Prince William did not show any unexpected expression. As if so. The king of the semi-elf sweeping the appearance of these, and the tone became strong, and asked to Prince William. What do you think about your brother who is about to marry the Duke of the North? I listened to your arrangements. Prince William lowered his head, and seemed to dare not look at his father's eyes. As a second son, I even married the daughter of the Duke of the North. The incident obviously made Prince William, who was the eldest son, uncomfortable. But Prince William did not dare to express this dissatisfaction. I asked your thoughts. The King of Elves didn't seem to be able to let go of his eldest son easily. I don't have an idea. Snapped. The scepter in the hands of the old king waved quickly and smashed heavily on Prince William's knees. Prince William screamed, knelt in front of the king, and yelled, "Father, I really dare not have any complaints." "Stupid," the old king yelled sharply. "Do you really think that I went to the north to marry Vera was arranged?" "Me? Explain." "I have no idea." Pop, pop, pap. The scepter in the hands of the old king continued to wave, and the rain was usually hit behind Prince William. Poor William did not dare to resist at all, and could only bear it silently. From time to time, he made a few screams, and seemed to want to get his father's sympathy. For a long time, the old king was finally tired. I saw him sitting back in the bed, hating Tai Gang, scolding, "Don't you know, you are the head of the future of a country, and the future patriarch of the semi-elf clan, tell me that you don't know? Is it waiting for the enemy to hit the eyes in the future, and the semi-elf family is imminent? Don't you think? You do not know? No responsibility. No brain. If it wasn't for you, it was my only bloodline of my relatives, I would have abolished you." Faced with the rebuke of the old king, Prince William shivered on the ground, and did not dare to move. But what he didn't know was that such a cowardly attitude would only make his father more angry. The old king looked at his son, sighed for a long time, and didn't speak for a long time. The Prince William waited for a long time, and did not wait for his father's context. He looked up carefully. Then he saw his father's indifferent eyes. It was a gaze he had never seen. I don't know why, Prince William suddenly felt an inexplicable panic. As if something important in life was away from him. Before he asked him to ask, the old king spoke again. "William, tell me, what is the survival of our Meadwen family?" "Skill the chips in your hand," Prince William quickly replied, as if a certain student finally found a question he would do on the test paper. "Then you tell me, what does this way of survival mean?" Prince William quickly searched the intestines and poured his belly, and he replied carefully, "That is, we need to pinch the chips, don't bet easily." "Why don't you bet easily?" the old king asked expressionlessly. Prince William was dumbfounded. "And you have an additional question?" The phrase "I don't know" was immediately swallowed by Prince William when he reached his throat. He felt that if he dared to say that, he would definitely be beaten again. I think, it's, bet, be cautious." The poor Prince William couldn't say anything for a long time. The glory in the eyes of the old king became even more dim. In desperation, he had to explain patiently, "Two giants fight, you are a thin little dwarf, if you dare not join the team, there is only the end of the pink body. Therefore, your best choice is to watch the battle. No matter how intimidating the giant, you can't end easily before the situation is clear. There are not many chips in your hands, but it is very important. As long as you don't bet easily, it will become more and more important. As long as you do not help each other, both sides need to win you. You can use this to take the left and right sources, and the strategic space of rolling turns is large. Understand?" Understand? Prince William nodded quickly, and I didn't know whether I really understood it, but I still just wanted to lie and escape the blame of his father. The look of the old king seemed a little disappointed. The ethnic language of the Meadwen family, which implies how much blood, tears, how much suffering of the semi-elf clan. How many dirty transactions are carried on. Pity. The old king sighed and asked again, so, now we are sandwiched between the north and the east, do you know what to do? I know as long as they do not divide the victory or defeat, we will never stand in line, and we will never bet. The old king's face finally had some smiles, and seemed to feel that his son was not stupid enough to be saved. So, if you think about it again, will to be the matter of marrying Vera really my arrangement? Prince William is smart this time and shook his head again and again. No, your father, you are so wise, how can you bet on the north at this critical moment? Seeing the old king nodded slowly, Prince William's confidence increased greatly. So, is this a brother's claim? The face of the old king flashed with a touch of anger. Huh, of course, the cheap woman pushed the wave in the back. Prince William did not dare to accept this time. Because he knew that the cheap woman in the mouth of the old king refers to the queen. Although from the perspective of outsiders, the relationship between King Half-Elf and the queen is harmonious, but William knew that her father had been dissatisfied with her since the day when the queen married into the royal family. In terms of adopting Prince Tupi, the two were almost revenge. The old king who pays attention to the inheritance of the blood has never regarded Prince Tup as his son. Even if he is legal, he is indeed the son of the king now. If it weren't for the Miller family who was born in the queen, the king would have been abolished. Now, the queen seems to want to win the Duke of the Northern Border through Tup's marrying Villa. This kind of behavior, regardless of the overall situation, obviously completely angered the old king, who wanted to maintain neutrality and played balance between the East and North. In a few days, the East China should be sent to the messenger. At that time, you will receive it. Yes. Remember, no matter how intimidating the East tip people, you should not end in person to provide them with some necessary conveniences, so that they can fight with the northern people by themselves. I see. Having said so much, the old king seemed tired, so he waved his hand to signal Prince William to retreat. Prince William immediately resigned, but before he walked out of the palace, the king called him again. By the way, the last time I asked you to investigate the Capital Chamber of Commerce, how about it? I checked it, there is no problem with that Fabrikhaus Chamber of Commerce, and the business and taxes are paid on time. Stupid, the old king was angry again. I asked you to investigate their tax evasion. Prince William was dumbfounded. The old king was breathing for a long time before he calmed his anger, and finally waved his hand with a cold heart. You continue to check? Yes, Prince William said tremblingly. How is Xiao Charlie recently? When I heard the king asking his son, Prince William's face appeared involuntarily with a smile. The little guy is very good. I have started to learn the sword recently, but it is too naughty. Send him to me tomorrow and accompany me for a while. Prince William did not doubt him, and nodded again and again. Yes, father. At this time, the sound of light footsteps sounded outside the palace. When Prince William turned around, he saw his father lying on the bed quickly. Sleep in 1 second. William, Her Majesty sleep, the Queen came in and asked, whispered. Yes, I fell asleep as soon as I came back. Well, go back to. Yes. This chapter is finished.